I speak now to Dan Perry, he's former Associated Press chief editor for Europe, Africa and the Middle East. He joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Many thanks for your time. Every day, Dan, there are more global organizations and voices raised in condemnation against Israel's conduct in Gaza, particularly these attacks on hospitals and medical workers. I wonder, as someone who lives in Israel, how do the majority of Israelis feel about this criticism? Do they still support the government and its actions in Gaza as strongly as they did a year ago?
Look, most Israelis don't support this government, polls show. Most Israelis, indeed, through gritted teeth, would accept the idea of ending the war and leaving Hamas in power in Gaza in exchange for all the hostages. They don't want that, but they would probably agree because of just impatience with having their hostages there and having this war continue. And no, they don't like the criticism. But there's also a sense, I must tell you, that these global organizations that are presented sometimes in the media as impartial are in fact implicitly anti-Israel. They view Oxfam as part of the global left that's always going to criticize Israel. They don't necessarily see as the word from on high every time a UN official condemns their actions. That said, there is a legitimate debate in Israel itself about what to do, given their conviction that Hamas does operate from within hospitals and mosques and schools, with the express purpose of forcing Israel to attack those civilian installations in order to cause damage to civilians, because that serves them and their propaganda. Now, I heard Mansour come on after me 2 hours ago and deny that when he was in Shifa Hospital, he saw Hamas fine. Israel's provided evidence to the contrary, and I haven't been there in the past year to investigate myself. It might not be so safe. I can't resolve these disputes. I can tell you that Israel is internally conflicted about what is going on. They'd like to see it end, but they also feel that sometimes international organizations and international media that give Hamas a pass on this tactic that they really do believe Hamas does are being naive at best and complicit at worst. All I think we can usefully do right now is urge all sides to end the war as quickly as possible. And I think that even as we call on Israel to provide more evidence of their claim that, for example, a Kamal Adwan hospital in Jabalia had been used by Hamas, and they were able to kill or arrest 300 Hamas people from within the hospital and its immediate environs not a week or two ago. I think even as we demand Israel be more transparent and provide more evidence of all this, we also probably should be putting more pressure on Hamas. And indeed, it is rather striking to me that given the absolute cataclysm that Hamas has brought upon the people of Gaza, there isn't more pressure from the entire Arab world to basically get them to lay down their arms and hand over the hostages. What happens after that? How to prevent Israel from taking land in Gaza, which the vast majority of people in Israel don't want at all, but some people in a coalition do want. How to make sure that what follows Hamas in Gaza is a proper Palestinian authority, Palestinian government, hopefully in a not too distant future, Palestinian independence. That's pressure that will have to be applied on Israel for sure. But right now, we need pressure on Hamas.
Right. And Dan, just stay with us a moment, because I just want to share with viewers that protesters in Israel have been following the head of the Knesset Security Committee as he was on his way to pray, demanding the return of Israeli captives who are held in Gaza. Take a look at this footage showing Israeli activists on social media platform X showing protesters following Yuli Edelstein holding signs. He was heading from his home to the synagogue in central Israel. Dan, coming back to you, clearly a lot of frustration domestically with the family of captives, that the government hasn't been able to get the captives home. We know ceasefire negotiations are going on in Doha. What do you feel is the likelihood that they will amount to something more concrete, given the pressure domestically?
That is exactly equivalent to the likelihood that Hamas will drop its demand for an end to the war and Israel to leave and leave them in power in Gaza in exchange for even the first phase of the hostages. Since I can assume that we can agree that the likelihood of Hamas doing that is very low, the likelihood of the talks succeeding is low. as a direct consequence as well. Moreover, Israel's waiting, I believe, for Donald Trump to take office because they think they'll have greater leeway and more of a permission to basically put, and your viewers will hate this, more humanitarian pressure on Gaza within the bounds of the laws they interpreted, but more pressure in order to get Hamas to finally relent. I'm not so sure this is going to a happy place very soon.
So you don't feel that Prime Minister Netanyahu is under pressure from Donald Trump, who has indicated that he wants the war in Gaza to be over?
Yeah, look, I think he will come under such pressure. But when Trump says, get this done, I think what Trump means is, I don't care about the consequences, just get it done in any way you possibly can so it's over with, and I can take credit for having brought peace, no matter how it was achieved. I do not think Donald Trump cares about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And therefore, Netanyahu would have a freer hand. Now, as someone who has friends in Gaza and who worked in Gaza and who cares about Gaza, this is rather heartbreaking to me because I think the strategy probably is wrong. Because my own view is that Hamas doesn't care about the consequences of the people of Gaza. So if Israel inflicts greater pain on the people of Gaza in order to get them to rebel or to get Hamas to relent, that won't work. Because Hamas is perfectly prepared to see masses of civilian casualties in Gaza. I suspect they're happy about it. This is a level of inhumanity that this demonic organization is capable of. I'm rather convinced. And so I don't see how we get out of this without massive Arab world pressure on Hamas in every way that it can possibly be applied to lay down their arms and return the hostages.
Dan Perry, former Associated Press chief editor for Europe, Africa and Middle East, speaking to us there from Tel Aviv. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.